Hello and welcome to the Week in Review live on NTN. Today is Saturday, December 5th, and every Saturday, every weekend at around this time, we come on air to bring you the developments from the week that was. My name is Jessie Leonce. I'm joined in studio by my colleague, Lucia Joseph. Unfortunately, we don't have Tony on board with us, but we will try to make the best of it.
We shall try to make the best of it. And we must say happy birthday to our always very dedicated, diligent, what else can we say about Roger?
Cannot be compared, incomparable.
That's right. So, it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Roger. Thank you. I know that you're 70 years old today, and for you to have to be able to get out of bed and get all of those cranks out of the back, we're so happy that you could be with us. So happy birthday.
Oh, he looks rather good for 70.
He looks marvelous for 70. I hope I'm that good looking at 70. So.
And speaking of developments for the week, again, happy birthday to you, Roger. But we're looking at the stories for this past week, and we did hear from the health officials that they've established a COVID-19 immunization committee for the safe rollout of the COVID vaccine. We'll be talking a little bit about that in just a moment. Also hearing from Dr. Sharon Belmar-George on what that means for the island. The ARC, Atlantic Rally for Cruisers, we had a touchdown of the first vessel here in St. Lucia this week. Also, the 10th Congress of the Caribbean Beekeepers ends on a fruitful note in St. Lucia. And we had earlier this week, I believe it was Tuesday, the 1st of December, the world commemorating AIDS Day. We know since the 80s, the world has been grappling with this virus, and so far many strides have been made, but there's still a call from health officials to know your status and take action. So the details to those stories and more are coming up on the other end of this break. Do huddle up. Stay tuned for the duration of this program.
The St. Lucia Bureau of Standards invites public comment on the following draft standards: food safety, hazard analysis and critical control point HACCP system requirements, food safety prerequisite programs and good hygiene practices, general principles, packaged natural coconut water code of practice, packaged natural coconut water specification, processed food brewed products labeling requirements, processed foods carbonated beverages specification, processed foods ketchup specification, processed foods brewed product specification. The deadline for comments is Monday, 1st February 2021. For further information, visit our website at www.slbs.org or call 453-0049. For quick access, scan the QR code below.
Keeping hands clean is important for good health. However, after a disaster, staying clean is hard to do, especially if there is no pipe-borne water. Simple things you can do to stay clean and remain healthy are: wash your hands with soap and clean water. If these are not available, sanitizers with alcohol are options. Wash your hands many times during the day, before preparing food, eating, caring for a sick person or baby, treating a cut, wound, or sore. Wash hands after using the bathroom, changing diapers, caring for animals, caring for sick or injured persons, after handling garbage. Washing your hands is one of the best ways to prevent illness. For further information, contact the Bureau of Health Education at telephone number 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Quite a few developments in this past week, and we are now here to bring it to you, especially coming from the government of St. Lucia. This is the Week in Review live on NTN. Myself, Jessie Leonce, and Lucia Joseph in studio to bring you those details and try to dissect as much as possible to give you a greater understanding of these events. The island's chief medical officer has informed that St. Lucia, like the rest of the world, is working diligently to access the safe and effective COVID-19 vaccine. On July 10th, 2020, that's earlier this year, St. Lucia signed on to the COVAX facility, which is a global mechanism to source COVID-19 vaccines. The COVAX facility ensures fair and equitable access to the vaccine by all the participating countries. The facility is making investments across a number of selected promising vaccine options, and this will give access to doses of safe and effective vaccines when they receive regulatory approval. And this access will be done by pooling and purchasing power from all participating countries. It is estimated that the first vaccine supply should be available by March 2021. The Ministry of Health and Wellness organized a COVID-19 immunization committee, which is planning the rollout of the vaccine in country, and this is being done with the support of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO.
This plan, which entails a health education and communication module, scheduled to commence in January 2021 ahead of the introduction of the vaccine. This aspect is important to ensure our population has access to accurate scientific information on the new vaccine to facilitate informed decisions in relation to its use for them and their family. Initial information suggests that at least 65 to 70% of the population would need to be vaccinated to achieve what is termed herd immunity, which is the level of resistance that is required across our population. We intend to monitor closely the use of the vaccine in the developed countries, commencing this month, to gain some insight of factors which support its rollout, barriers, and any key lessons learned which can be applied to our country. The National COVID-19 Vaccine Plan will also indicate the priority target groups to be focused on when the vaccine is introduced, as well as the country policy on the dissemination of the vaccine into the wider community, the policy on availability, cost, and the conditions for uptake.
So Dr. Sharon Belmont-George explaining what our signing on to the COVAX facility really means and what will transpire leading up to the goal of having a vaccine in St. Lucia by March 2021. We know that the vaccine, the race to getting a vaccine globally, Lisa, has been on from since January, I believe. We had work beginning to decipher at first what the COVID-19 genome was all about. And at this point, we have many organizations, countries trying to determine which is the best way going forward in terms of a vaccine.
It's almost like you're shooting in the dark. That's the saying that goes. When I think that the challenge for the medical and scientific community really is getting populations on board. How do you convince people that the vaccine is safe? One, given that we know that the development of vaccines is something that requires years, if not decades, in order for you to be able to perfect, in order for you to be able to know that you have factored in all possible human reactions, cell reactions to the vaccine, and ensuring that it is indeed very safe. And so this fast tracking that has happened, I don't think that the scientific community has been able to really walk the ordinary the citizen, wherever you may be in the world, the ordinary citizen of the world, through the process of and convincing that all safety measures, all efficacy has been taken into account. So it would be, that's the challenge. And I think too that the approach that I'm seeing across the globe coming from the scientific and medical community is for asking for people to trust that the advancements that we've made in our modern history. So it's yet to be seen how it is going to be received, most critically for those who would receive the vaccine, what their experience would be in the end. And I think that will be the selling point of it. So we've heard that, you know, a lot of high-profile individuals, so leaders of countries have already vowed that they will be taking the vaccine once it's rolled out. And that, of course, is to be able to tell citizens, hey, it's good enough. I believe that it is safe, that I am putting my own life on the line to take it. And so if all goes well with me, then all should be well with you, sort of thing. So that would be an interesting thing, Jesse, to see how it all pans out. And so 2021, but at least by March 2021 is that date that we're looking at. Just some interesting things here. I just came across some information about how effective the vaccine would be, and that's for Pfizer.
Pfizer.
Because we know we have several other contending ones.
Just this week, that was Tuesday, Britain authorized Pfizer
to go ahead
with a vaccine for emergency use.
Right. So they're saying that it is about 95% effective. The phase 3 trial of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine involved 42,000 people. Again, I'm not in the scientific world, so don't really know if that's a large enough sample for you to be able to discern, and if that's normally close to what you would have had as a sample size in an ordinary vaccine trial. So again, these are questions that our own medical community we can answer. And they're also saying that in total, 170 people fell ill with COVID. Well, those who received the placebo, because that's always the thing. So you give the actual thing and then the placebo.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, they're saying that how long does the immune memory last in the vaccine? They're saying it's hard to say at this point because the clinical trials weren't set up to answer that particular question.
Because they're expediting it, the time frame.
Exactly. However, the WHO, the World Health Organization, says that a minimum of 6 months would be acceptable. So again, they're continuing to look at what the data says regarding that. How long does it take for the immunity to develop after vaccination? The trial began assessing immunity 7 days after the second shot was received. So again, that is the details of that will be published very, very soon. And you would need 2 shots of the vaccine in order for you to be able to develop the required immunity. And the gap between doses in the trial range between 19 and 42 days. And only 2% of the people in the trial missed their second dose. So it isn't entirely clear at this point what happens under those circumstances.
Okay.
But from that, they were saying that the individuals who took the vaccine didn't really have any sort of side effects. They're saying that sometimes, but they were mild side effects. In the trial, the vaccine was generally well tolerated, and an independent data monitoring committee reported no serious safety concerns. The worst side effects were fatigue and headaches after the second dose. About 4% of people reported fatigue and 2% a headache. Other side effects were pain at the injection site and muscle pain. These are common reactions you would have with any other vaccine.
Yeah, it's not a great departure from the other injections. So, I mean, what you just mentioned was across the spectrum of the testing phases. So we know it's very rigorous. There are several stages through which the testing goes through. We have the preclinical testing, phase 1, which is the safety trials, phase 2, which is expanded trials, where they would test between elderly and children to see if it has any different reactions and so on. Also, as you mentioned, Lisa, the efficacy testing, where they try to determine, the individuals who become infected versus the volunteers who take a placebo, how it works, what time it takes to catch COVID, if they do at all. We've so far seen also combined phases. So there are some countries who are overlapping the phases in terms of preclinical and phase 1 safety trials and so on. There's some countries that have even gone ahead to give out vaccines, to authorize vaccines ahead of the full trial process. And I certainly know that the CMO has given the indication that all efforts will be taken to ensure that there is full due process ahead of any decision that is made coming out of the local committee and from PAHO. Countries like China, Russia have approved well ahead of just waiting ahead of the phase 3 trials, but we're waiting until March 2021 to ensure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed to ensure that we have a good product that the health officials can present to our population.
But certainly, Jessie, and I fear that already there are, aspects of populations across the world where the struggle is to get individuals
the buy-in.
Yes. And just even the buy-in that COVID exists. So I am just very, very concerned that what you will be seeing is a sort of relaxing by, in people that, okay, the vaccine is here, so, oh, this is a panacea to all of our problems. And no, because the vaccine at this time, there's no clear understanding if it's going to really prevent you from really contracting or transmitting. And so it will still remain critical for us to follow those little protocols, the wearing of the mask, the social distancing, and the hand sanitizing, washing of the hands, and all of the other measures that are being put in place that have kept so many of us safe. We will still need to do those things because it's not as if the vaccine is going to come on this great white horse and with a knight and protect us all and that sort of thing. So I'm afraid that, especially looking at those metropolitan countries where everybody really, having to change their lives is so very difficult, that these individuals may feel, okay, the vaccine is here, I'm just going to go get a shot and everything will be fine. So we still need to wait it out.
Proceed cautiously.
Absolutely, and we really do need to continue to follow all of those protocols and measures that has kept us safe.
Absolutely. And just to give some people some insight on the COVAX facility, it is necessary because without it, there's a very real risk that the majority of the population, the world's population, can go unprotected from COVID-19. We've so far seen the devastation that it has caused. And what the COVAX facility will do is provide lower income funded nations who would have otherwise been unable to afford those vaccines, as well as a number of higher income self-financing countries that have no bilateral deals with manufacturers, etc. It would give them an opportunity to be able to pool their resources and purchase these vaccines. So that is the reason why the government of St. Lucia has signed on to the COVAX facility to be able to give us the best opportunity at tapping into vaccines for the population.
Yeah, making it accessible and with great equity as well.
Absolutely. The CMO says the Ministry of Health will ensure full stakeholder participation in anticipation of broad-level discussion for achieving the effective introduction of this new vaccine into the country. And now, meantime, as the Department of Health and Wellness battles the COVID-19 pandemic and in-country spread of the virus, health officials are saying that it is not without its challenges. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar-George has explained that one such challenge is illegal entry into the country. And this is not unique to St. Lucia. We have all over the world, we have this sociological event happening that was happening before, but now it's posing a real significant threat to populations globally. The fact that we have illegal border entries. CMO,
and I think about in Europe, for example, where you do have that sort of immigration issues. People are coming in via the boats and so
the Mediterranean.
Forth. Yes, so it is definitely across the globe you have those issues.
I was reading this morning that Malaysia earlier this year was confronted with this situation because you have the Rohingya immigrants coming through, and also Malaysia being a better than economy than its neighboring territories. Persons are trying to migrate for a better life, and they're doing it at the risk of contracting or putting others at threat.
And you can imagine that COVID is not, as we've been saying from the very, very beginning, it is not just a health issue. It's really an economic issue. It's a survival
It's a humanitarian issue.
And so COVID has really worsened the situations across the globe. And so, yes, now more than ever, people are looking to see where they can get a better life. And that motivation is really going to allow people to take certain risks that perhaps they would never have contemplated before.
I can go out on a limb to state that perhaps what our experience is here in St. Lucia with illegal border entry is very much that. Persons are looking to have a livelihood and create some sort of, benefit for themselves.
And certainly we do have our nationals who are perhaps, quote-unquote, stuck in another country and getting the means of being able to come back and that sort of thing. So the issues are fairly complicated issues surrounding that.
Definitely. Just to go back to the Malaysian situation, I know they started a task force in St. Lucia. The same has been done. You know, all around the world, efforts are being made to tighten security at the borders to protect the population because they're very vulnerable at this point in time where COVID-19 is concerned. The chief medical officer here in St. Lucia did note that it has been extremely difficult to manage and place health officials in a peculiar dilemma. I just want to go to a clip from Dr. Sharon Belmar-George explaining that statement.
The second risk which we continue to see is the illegal entry, and those have been very difficult to manage. Our contact tracing team, we get a lot of information on this, but this is very ticklish given that it's persons' family members. They're not, we as health persons, we don't report this information as it's given to us a lot of the time in confidence as to their contacts, and it's a very sensitive one because it's persons' family members who do the in and out for their own economic, although illegal. So it has been one that has been difficult to manage and control.
Dr. Sharon Belmont-George there, just speaking about the sensitivities around, you know, persons having to report, you know, their relatives who may have come in illegally. Definitely something that we were speaking about, Lisa, earlier this year, you know, persons coming forward, speaking up, irrespective of this relation.
And I'm sure that it also, ordinarily, you may feel like, am I snitching by informing? And even when we use the word report, I'm reporting you. There's right.
There's the connotation.
And also, you know, that this individual is going to face some dire consequences. I'm reporting you. And it's right, it's a peculiar dilemma because the Ministry of Health is really concerned, and that is this mandate about the health, improving someone's the health, and its purview is not to be punitive. And so that is a peculiar dilemma. So the Ministry of Health has to tread so cautiously where that is concerned. Yes, it wants the information, it wants to be able to go find these individuals who may have come in unchecked. However, it's really a delicate balance that it has to strike, and even how it approaches and conducts these I don't want to use the word investigating, but probing, looking for these individuals. You really need to come across as being so non-threatening in order for people to open up to you.
Yeah.
So it is a difficult thing, and I think that is why the ministry is not placing focus publicly on that issue. Because you do not want to scare individuals away and let them believe that there's such dire consequences awaiting them. And for family members not to feel that they are betraying their relatives by informing the authorities as well. However, it is the right thing to do, to inform. I don't want to use the word report, but you inform that someone who has been away has returned and you're not quite certain how that individual came into the island. And so perhaps they, a knock at the door just to get the person's temperature and so forth would be an advised thing. So, yes.
And I mean, this whole SUSE thing, I think we need to come away from it because it's what's crippled us in other areas with other scourges that we've been confronted with. When we talk about domestic violence, incestuous relationships, these things are covered because you want to protect relatives, you want to protect people in your community.
Or you feel you just don't need to get involved, it's not my business.
Exactly.
But it is all of our business.
And it exacerbates and perpetuates the very thing that we're trying to, try to remedy here in the society. St. Lucia, in light of the situation in terms of persons being, a little, apprehensive to come forward to speak on their relatives who may have come in illegally. They've been collaborating, the government of St. Lucia has been collaborating with the French government to tackle this issue and protect the country's borders. We have Marc Meteo, he is the charge d'affaires of the Embassy of France. Take a look.
I would like to recall that France and St. Lucia are actively collaborating on matters relating to security. This is why in the current context of the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was decided a few weeks ago through a mutual agreement to strengthen maritime cooperation by placing French Navy vessels in the territorial waters between the two islands to intercept any attempt at illegal entry into any of the islands. These vessels are coordinating with competent authorities of St. Lucia, in particular with the Marine Police Unit.
That was a charge d'affaires of the Embassy of France, Marc Matteo, speaking on, the efforts on the high seas to ensure that any illegal activity can be intercepted as soon as possible to reduce the threat of COVID-19, among other issues that illegal transfer smuggling brings. French Navy vessels on the waters, Lisa, certainly a boost.
Yeah, it is a boost for us. The water is so vast. It's quite a challenge for you to be able to monitor and surveil and just to ensure that there are no breaches. So it's an absolute welcome, and we've had such a long history of cooperation with the French that I can see this as being nothing but good on both sides.
Absolutely. And speaking of good, on to our next story in terms of our COVID-19 status here in St. Lucia. I think this past week was a bit, less active than the previous weeks that we've experienced here in St. Lucia in terms of diagnosed cases. This past week, we diagnosed only 10 new cases of COVID-19. That is between Sunday, the 30th, the 29th of November, to today at airtime. 10 new cases of COVID-19 and 10 recoveries. So we also had 186 negative test results coming in. And so all auguring well for our effort COVID-19 wise. And we know that the COVID-19 protocols that were instituted on the 16th of November continue. They've been extended into this fortnight, the first fortnight of December, to try to reduce the risk of transmission, limit the social activity here in St. Lucia, unnecessary social activity, to try to get a clamp down on containing COVID-19 as soon as possible. These clusters of cases, the in-country spread that we've been experiencing, it's very concerning on so many levels, and I think this past week has, been sort of a step in the right direction in terms of the registering of cases. Curious to know how health officials will read this information, the data that has been collected so far, and what it will mean for us going into the festive season, the second half of December. Will the measures be relaxed? Will we continue to see strengthened protocols going into the holidays to perhaps continue this trend that we've so far seen this past week of reduced cases per week?
And that was the hope when the NEMAC meeting, when they announced the new measures and for the 14-day period, the 1st to the 14th of December, is that if St. Lucians were to just dig a little deeper within themselves and really commit to observing all of the protocols, that there would be something of a sort of flattening of the curve happening and a slowing down of infection and so forth. And the hope expressed then by the officials would be that if this trend were to develop and it was strong, then we would be able to have some degree of, relaxation by the time Christmas were to come about. But, just it's interesting that I've been hearing people question, well, how is only now we're hearing about negative tests happening now that we were placed on the CDC's alert level? And I'm thinking, but no, because I can distinctly remember, because we reported it here at the GIS, of at least 230 or 30 plus negative tests that were received within a week period. And that would have been somewhere around 3 weeks ago. Yeah. We did report that.
If anything, it was happening more before. In the initial phase, because we had less cases to report. So there were more negative test results than there were positive cases.
But also, too, I don't think that there was a deliberate enough effort on the part of the Ministry of Health to report negative tests.
Yes.
And so once they did that, and we reported the 230 plus negative cases, and I think people's ears began to poke up where that was concerned. But it's important to be able to balance, and I think for lessening of anxiety on the part, because if we are asking individuals to adhere to the protocols and be strict about it, they need to also have all of the information to know that what they're doing is working.
Okay, absolutely. And we're due for a break, but just to piggyback off of you, Lisa, I mean, the recovery rate is as essential as well. You know, 10 new cases, but 10 recoveries this week. Yes. You know, it almost nullifies the statistic, if you will. But definitely something to look at, and we do hope that you continue in this new week going forward. Continue to listen to what is coming out of the Ministry of Health in terms of the cases, and not just the new cases that are being diagnosed, but the negative results that are coming out, as well as the recoveries. All three statistics are very important in painting a clear picture of what our situation is here, COVID-19 wise. We are due for a break, as I mentioned. Stay with us. When we come back, we take a look at the Atlantic Rally for Cruisers. We had the first vessel coming in this past week, and also to go back to the French, we had a special donation coming from the French government. Stay with us.
Yeah. What does coronavirus have in common with love? Both are highly contagious. Spread love, not the virus. Like you, COVID-19 loves a lime. Beach, river, or fed. Coronavirus is like these people who track every lime just to invade. The best way to put off invaders? Cancel the lime. Spread love, not the virus. Keep you and your crew corona-free. Live to lime another day.
Together let us win this war. Said Lucia be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
Overnight, growing national unrest.
Society, a digital cashless society, one world currency.
A vaccine for COVID-19.
Midtown.
Droplets of the virus.
Macy's iconic flagship. Sat inside.
The coronavirus.
Everybody vaccinated
On the corona pandemic.
our position to the lockdown.
An infected conspiracy theories
about the coronavirus.
bizarre claims.
The truth about the origin of COVID-19 is hidden from the rest of the world. And the Chinese.
In this constantly changing environment, resulting in sensory overload, cut through the noise and tune in to the National Television Network, the official source of information, all facts.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. Before we got off break, we were speaking on our COVID-19 situation here in St. Lucia. The Ministry of Health and Wellness organizing a COVID-19 immunization committee, planning to roll out the vaccine in country. The goal is March 2021 that we'll have the vaccine available on island. We also got word of the concern of the government of St. Lucia of the continued bane, that is, of illegal entry into St. Lucia, primarily from the north, the immediate territory north. And so we did hear from the French government official speaking on the plans that have been made to reduce and to intercept any illegal activity on the water between St. Lucia and that island. We have the French Navy vessels being put on that high sea to ensure that any illegal activity can be intercepted. Also, the COVID-19 situation here in St. Lucia, 10 new cases of COVID registered in St. Lucia this past week between Sunday and airtime now, and also 10 recoveries this week as well, and 186 negative test results coming back as well. So we so far had 147 individuals, patients recover in country out of the 262 cases that have been registered to date. And it's also important to note, Lisa, that a few of these individuals have been repatriated to their own countries. So you can't really do a 147 out of 262 sort of calculation.
So, yeah, the way that, I'm always saying, well, why can't we just say how many active cases we have? But it's so important to give the total picture.
Absolutely.
So sometimes when we hear the 250-something cases, like, what? And you're thinking that all of these individuals are laying up on a hospital bed sick.
Yes.
Not realizing out of that, you may perhaps only have 5 active cases. But it is the way that the statistic is done.
Absolutely. Coming off of the French clip that we had before we went to break, we had the Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of France, Marc Matteo, speaking on the installation of French Navy vessels at the Channel. We also have the government of St. Lucia receiving a donation of medical equipment from the French donation. We cap off our COVID-19 updates for the week with this report. Take a look.
Diplomatic allies continue to lend their support as St. Lucia battles the COVID-19 pandemic. The French government recently made a donation of medical supplies and equipment to St. Lucia, which is anticipated to bolster the island's COVID-19 response. Marc Matteo is the charge d'affaires at the Embassy of France.
St. Lucia is suffering more than most of the other islands from the pandemic, with a sharp increase in the number of cases since mid-October. It is the reason why France has considered it important to respond favorably to a request for assistance from the government of St. Lucia. We would like to express our solidarity with St. Lucia, as well as the other OECS member countries, with very strong ties in all areas. On Wednesday this week, more than 10,000 masks were handed over to the St. Lucian authorities to be given to public officials who are in direct contact with the public, in particular members of the Royal St. Lucia Police. Today, I have the pleasure of presenting another donation from France to St. Lucia. It consists of 50 military folding beds, 10 cardiac monitors, and 2 ventilators. These will assist the hospitals in providing better health care to their patients and families.
The charge d'affaires said that the embassy is working on a third shipment, which includes 40 medical beds, due to arrive in mid-December. Highlighting the urgent need for the supplies, he explained that all efforts are being made to speed up the shipment. Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Department of External Affairs, Guillaume Simon, noted that St. Lucia and the French continue to share a very mutually beneficial relationship.
Well, St. Lucia has enjoyed mutual cooperation with the French. We've enjoyed a cordial relationship with the French government, and as part of the assistance to the government of St. Lucia, the French have in fact donated these products, which again was really the lobbying effort of our Consul General, which is Joanna Salton, CG Joanna Salton, in terms of getting benefit for us in combating the COVID pandemic.
Medical Officer of Health in the Department of Health and Wellness, Dr. Glensford Joseph, described the donation as timely.
This donation from the French government and people is going to be very helpful and instrumental in St. Lucia being able to manage this COVID-19 pandemic. We do know we have the respiratory center, and there is urgent need for such vital equipment in that facility to enhance the capacity of the physicians, the nurses, and other medical personnel in managing patients in St. Lucia.
The donation was received by the Department of External Affairs on behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia. From the Government Information Service, I am Janelle Norville.
Thank you, Janelle, for that report. Again, thanks to the government and people of the French government for their contribution towards our COVID-19 effort. The equipment, the beds, the cardiac machines, we all do appreciate this, and we know it's going to go a long way in our response to COVID-19 here on island. We continue this morning with the update on the Atlantic Rally for cruisers. This week we saw on December 3rd. That was Thursday this week, the first arrival of the ARC 2020 sailing triumphantly into the IGY Rodney Bay Marina in the Atlantic crossing that began in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria on Sunday, 22nd November. Banzai, that's the name of the vessel, is sir?
Definitely Banzai.
Banzai crossed the finish line, claiming a new multi-hull record for the ARC course. Banzai blitzed across the Atlantic in just under 11 days. The all-Belgian crew on board was delighted, and their cheers echoed around the bay. They were presented with the customary St. Lucian rum punch and bulging baskets of local produce as applause rang out from the ARC rally control team. A large number of the competing vessels are expected to arrive here by this weekend, under strict enforcement of COVID-19 protocols.
Yeah, and I miss, 2020 has just messed up so many things.
Yeah, the full ARC experience.
The ARC experience, it's a good one. Well, not the sailing part because,
it's rigorous.
But certainly, but what we get to enjoy on our end by being able to, and you would go to the marina and you didn't perhaps even need to be in the marina to meet the yachties. They would be all over, going all the way to the south. Some of them would rent the B&Bs and, just really enjoy the island. And they would do so more freely than the sort of land-based hotel experience because they're really out on their own. So they would get an opportunity to really blend with the community. And they have such interesting stories to tell of their journey, even just of their lives. How did they become so interested in yachting and so forth? And it never ceases to amaze me how people can simply go out on a limb and just say, you know what, I'm selling my house, I'm buying a yacht. I'm just going to sail the world. So it amazes me. But also, it also goes to show that in the new economy, that is, perhaps sometimes that seemed out of reach for us in this part of the world, that you can do that because these individuals do work from their yachts, on their computers and so forth, and they still keep vibrant careers.
Economies without borders.
Yes, exactly. And so they really signify how you can have the best of both worlds. I'm still trying to figure out how that can be done. On my end, but
well, you let me know when you figure out the formula.
I will happily pass it on to you. But certainly the ARC, and the ARC has done well for St. Lucia over the years as well. And I think it boosts our profile in that segment of the travel tourism industry. And I think that there's so much more for us to do in that regard, but we've been able to open up the possibilities of what can be. I think over the years that I've been doing on the beats in journalism, there's always been that consistent cry for us to be able to develop the skills that go along with the yachting sector. I don't think that we've made much of a push in that direction, but there is such a need for just not the mechanical skills, but individuals who can take care of the sails and hulls and that sort of thing. It pays good money. Pays very, very good money. Just being able to know how to clean the vessels properly and that sort of thing. That's jobs right there. So hopefully, past COVID, these conversations can begin again, and hopefully that there can be more of a thrust for us to really become more competitive where that is concerned.
Because we've definitely seen, when you look laser focused, the major areas of our economy, what benefits us most, and definitely yachting is one of those areas that, we can definitely look
Absolutely.
into.
I just want us to be able to get past the idea that tourism is about a hotel and taxi drivers and vendors. It is so much more than that. And we're beginning to understand the far-reaching tentacles of tourism when we hear about the different people who are saying, look, I've become so affected, my business is closing down because I'm not having that tourism dollar trickling in. So we're beginning to understand the full scope of what tourism really means to the economy.
Absolutely. And it's definitely textured. I mean, there's some persons who would not see it because they would not be directly, interacting or involved.
You just believe that,
and I think,
yes, but indirectly we are all benefiting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Continuing for the morning in terms of tourism, a good turn of events for us. St. Lucia's prominence among global destinations within the romance niche continues to be undisputed. The destination was bestowed yet again the prestigious title of world's leading honeymoon destination. The virtual announcement of the highly coveted industry accolade was made on November 27th in Moscow, Russia, commemorating the observance of the 27th Annual World Travel Award. St. Lucia has been recognized for this award for the 12th time and for the third consecutive year since 2018. World Travel Awards are voted for and by travel and tourism professionals and consumers worldwide, and is recognized as the travel industry's most prestigious award program, rewarding leaders in the tourism sector, airline, hotel, and hospitality as well. Doreen Georges, we know who is the figure at the public relations manager at the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, did speak to this recent accolade for St. Lucia. Take a look.
It is an honor for St. Lucia to be named for a 12th time as the world's leading honeymoon destination. Her undeniable prominence among global destinations is what we strive for daily. So on behalf of the Minister of Tourism, Honorable Dominic Fede, the teams at the Ministry of Tourism and the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, and our entire hospitality industry, we say thank you to our travel and tourism professionals and consumers worldwide for recognizing St. Lucia for this prestigious title once again.
That was Doreen Georges, the public relations manager over at the Tourism Authority. And just to read out a quote from Dominic Fede, speaking on this award, Honorable Dominic Fede, Tourism Minister, he indicated, quote, St. Lucia's internationally acclaimed status is what we strive for daily in our strategic marketing and promotion efforts. The destination undoubtedly boasts of true passion in all key niches and amongst its hidden gems. It is indeed an honor for St. Lucia to be once again noted as the world's leading honeymoon destination, a sincere reflection of the culture and people who propel the industry, end of quote. And so, apart from winning the highly coveted award, which is what's the name of the award again, Lisa? World's leading honeymoon destination. Apart from winning that award, St. Lucia was also nominated in 3 other categories, namely the world's leading island destination, world's leading wedding destination, and world's most romantic destination for 2020. So that development there, looking good beside our COVID-19 situation, because it shows that we're continuing to thrive in the industries that have been most affected. We're continuing to see that there is continued recognition in these areas.
I would have thought we were already romantic simply because we're the honeymoon destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we got
Goes
that.
without saying.
We got that. But, Jesse, that, again, how the diversity of the tourism industry perhaps is lost on many of us. And I think about it, world leading honeymoon destination, people come here, even in the wedding segment as well, you think about it, you have hairdressers, so, people would be contracted to come to do the bridal parties here, barbers would probably go up and, to take care of the groom and so forth. So they're missing out on that income as well, even for our florists.
Tailors, photographers, seamstresses, designers.
All of these individuals would have earned some livelihood from the tourism industry. And so, the flower shops are withering away, if you want to, call it that, because a large segment of their business is coming from the hotels, so can't wait for 2020 to be over and this nightmare that we can wake up from this real dark nightmare.
But even then, persons are saying, hey, hold your horses. 2021 may come with additional responsibilities and for us to be even more cautious, going into 2021.
I would like to think of 21 as being able to apply some vital lessons learned in 2020. Let's act upon those lessons so that we can begin to protect ourselves from having to fall into a similar position. And that's the thing. Every time you believe that you've developed some sort of resilience to a disaster, what happens? Mother Nature says, no, 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 you're not going to have one over me.
Twists and
So,
turns.
yes. And so what you find is that it morphs into something. And then perhaps in the next 50 years, we may be seeing a new virus, a new global disaster. And then you say, we've never experienced anything on such a scale before. And so every time it ups the ante. So, but all we can do is be in the now. And all we have is the ability for us to be able to think of how, again, we can begin to put up systems that would protect us from having to fall victim to any such recurrences. So
yeah,
we can try.
Speaking of disaster response, we had this week 2 major climate resilience structures. These construction is ongoing right now, being funded by the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. We have the building up the Morn, South Louis Community College,
yes, the Victor
Archer building, as well as the
Miko
the Wellness Center that's being constructed there, both being constructed under the DVRP. And we had these stories this week. We have these stories on deck for you, but do stay tuned. We're due for a break. When we come back, we get into these very important developments and talking about what it means for the institutions, Arthur Lewis Community College and the community, Miko, as well. Stay with us.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. All the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. Think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives, and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy, and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program, UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Better yet, use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No, no.
Advice, give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is the Week in Review. We are live on NTN and we're looking at the developments for this past week. We've so far seen a reduction in the recorded cases of COVID-19 here in St. Lucia when we look at this week as compared to the last few weeks, as well as 10 recoveries as well, and 186 negative test results. We've so far seen the total recovery of individuals in country to date standing at 147 out of the 262 confirmed cases of COVID-19. We also have the Ministry of Health and Wellness indicating that they are working on the They are working on getting us a vaccine into St. Lucia by March of 2021. Will you take it? And that is the question. And we know that the health officials are working assiduously to ensure that they dot their I's and cross their T's to ensure that it is safe. And what is coming, we know PAHO is also involved in ensuring that everything is done by the book. We also have in St. Lucia, for St. Lucia, the accolade of winning the world's leading honeymoon destination. So despite the setbacks that we've experienced due to COVID-19, St. Lucia continues to be a premier in its reach in terms of its recognition of the tourism product that we have. And also looking at ARC, we so far had this past week the first vessel sailing in for the ARC 2020. We're having ARC in St. Lucia limited as compared to previous years, but we're having it nonetheless under strict protocols. So the effort right now is to see how we can begin to evolve and continue to experience and continue to thrive, have our economy thrive around COVID-19. We continue with this morning's look back at this past week. 2 major climate resilience structures being funded under the DVRP. The Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. We have the over 200-year-old Victor Archer building at the South Lewis Community College being rebuilt under this project. We do have a report on that, as well as a report on the wellness center in Meko that is being constructed under the DVRP as well. But we're going to start with the South Lewis Community College building that is being rebuilt. Take a look. The Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, DVRP, aims to reduce disaster susceptibility and increase long-term climate resilience in St. Lucia by addressing the multifaceted risk associated with hydrometeorological events. The DVRP also finances the reconstruction activities that are to be implemented to rectify the damages caused by Hurricane Tomas and the December 2013 floods. The Sir Arthur Lewis Community College's Victor Archer building, built in the 1800s and serving the Division of Arts, Science and General Studies, was badly damaged.
In the mid-2000s, we had an earthquake that damaged the building, and in 2010, we also suffered further damage with Hurricane Tomas. And that just meant that we were not able to use the top floor after Hurricane Tomas.
I came in here in 2016. It was already in a deplorable condition. We found that when it rained, that water will come through the roof, penetrate the upper floor, and then come and disturb the classes. So, in effect, when it was raining, we could not have used this floor.
The dean's office had to be moved. The admin offices to support the dean and serve the students also had to be moved. The building holds 6 large classrooms, many of them holding as many as 60 students. That also had to be moved. So it meant that the college had to find space to ensure that the administrative functions of the unit continued and that the students had a classroom to do the learning in. So it made life very difficult for us.
In 2018, the building was decommissioned, thus displacing and inconveniencing hundreds of students and faculty. The Sir Arthur Lewis Community College made an official request for funding in May 2013, and this request was supported by central government. Designs and estimates were invited by local independent contractors. By mid-2016, the bidding process commenced, but the final design was completed in March 2018. On June 1st, 2020, contracts were signed to rehabilitate the over 200-year-old 2-story Victor Archer building at a cost of $2.9 million EC dollars. Through a competitive bidding process, the contract was awarded to Mega Construction, Inc.
We have to install new ceilings. The flooring is bad, so we have to redo those. We have to give it a facelift in terms of the aesthetics. We want to make sure that the building maintains the same appearance as the surrounding buildings.
The construction involves steel beams along with timber floor joists, and on top you have a wooden floor. Okay? Now if you look closely, right, you could see that there's some deterioration, and possibly due to wet rot or termite infestation somewhere along the lines. So hence the reason why this floor will have to be properly assessed.
When complete, the Victor Archer building will consist 6 large classrooms on the top floor, inclusive of a language lab and an administrative office, whereas the ground floor will comprise 3 spacious classrooms, a small kitchen, and a departmental archive. This project is expected to be complete by June 2021. From the Government Information Service, I am Jessie Leonce reporting.
There's that on the rehabilitation project there. And also, meantime, the DVRP is impacting lives in Miko as the construction of a modern wellness center is nearing completion. We have the birthday guy, Roger Lawrence, with this report.
13,429 persons call Miko North and South home. These residents can now look forward to a state-of-the-art wellness center, replacing a residential building which was configured to accommodate patients and provide healthcare services.
The construction of the Miko Wellness Center has been a priority for the government, I should say, for the last 15 years and has been in negotiation. We had demolished the older facility with the aim of reconstructing. However, that funding fell through. So we then had to seek alternative funding.
On January 7th, 2020, the contract for construction of the Miko Wellness Center was signed, heralding a new, modern era of healthcare for residents of Miko and neighboring communities. The construction of the Wellness Center is being funded and implemented through the government's Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, DVRP, which aims to build the country's resilience to climate change impacts, including stronger hurricanes, more frequent flood and drought events, and varied health sector impacts, such as increased incidence of vector-borne diseases like dengue fever. The Ministry of Health ensured comprehensive community engagement long before any bricks were laid.
The community was very vocal in terms of articulating what their needs were, and we came out with about 4 possible locations. After that, we then returned to the community for a second consultation when we had done the designs, and they gave us feedback into what they would like the facility to look like. We tweaked that, and we proceeded with the construction of the facility.
The construction is scheduled to take 12 months and started in January 2020. From the onset, there were challenges.
Construction phase started in January 9th, 2020. We started with a full force, but then due to COVID, I think March, we had a shutdown for a month.
We had some difficulties with materials. You know, COVID impacted materials as well. So the procurement of materials became an issue. And many times we had to probably slow down work as a result of this.
Despite the challenges, there has been significant progress. As of November 2020, this 4,000 square feet modern health facility is 70% complete.
Here is where all the dental works will be done, all right? This is where you come and sit in the nice big chair and you get the nice numbing drugs, okay? At the back here, we have a storage. This storage will be only legalized or only be authorized by the dentist or the people working in this section. These little windows up here, we call them skylights or fixed lights. These windows will take light from one room and jump into the next room to decrease the cost of electricity bill inside the building. In here, we have what we call a pharmacy. So therefore, you don't need to go down to Viewfort to get your basic needs or basic drugs. You can also come here inside of Miko Wellness Center to get your drugs. This is the pharmacy, okay? This place will have a nice big sofa, a table of 6 chairs, and also going to have a TV, you know, and it has a male and female bathroom, fully equipped.
The Miko Wellness Center was first proposed by Sir John Compton in 1992. Today, $4.1 million in special funding from the World Bank through the DVRP will ensure that the facility is compliant with global standards for healthcare delivery and is designed to withstand climate change impacts. From the Government Information Service, Roger Lawrence reporting.
Report, and again, happy birthday to you, Roger. So there you have it, the update on the DVRP, the Miko Wellness Center, as well as the Victor Archer building at the South Louis Community College being redone under the DVR, the
DVRP, the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project.
Now, that's all in the thing of having us to become more of a resilient. Climate resilient nation. And
building resilience.
That is so important for us. And earlier I was talking about how it's in Mother Nature can say, you're not there yet. Because now we are experiencing fiercer storms than ever.
Yeah.
And I think so that when we are doing our resilience, we also need to take into consideration that we're susceptible to earthquakes as well. So all of these things need to be factored into. One thing that I like about the movement of the DVRP, it's not just about that it's giving us shiny new building structures that can withstand hurricane and force winds and so forth, but it's teaching us about conservation as well. So that's a good thing in terms of being eco-friendly and so forth. But there's that, to my mind, there's also that little hidden gem that perhaps we're not focusing on or considering, the fact that movement like this can help spur our education sector in order to create more diverse professions. And I think that certainly our students, when they're thinking about careers, I don't know if we're allowing them the opportunity to explore all that there may be. And again, as we're talking about the economies without borders and so forth, that it is the professions that are out there so vast.
How have our school fairs evolved? Is it the same doctor, lawyer, opportunities?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So within the whole climate resilience, climate change movement, there are so many professions that our students can be turned on to. So I'm hoping that is, again, as 2021 approaches, we will be able to discuss more about those professions, because getting people to specialize in these areas really is part of resilience as well, because now we'll have individuals who are trained, who are skilled, who are experts in a particular field that can help continue to guide the nation and again to protect us. Because I was listening to a program and a young lady being interviewed, and she said that she's an architect. I'm like, oh great. But she says, no, I'm not just any architect, but I'm a hospital architect.
Nice.
I was like, oh. And so the interviewer is telling us, so what really is the difference? And she's saying, well, an ordinary architect, really, you need to be able to be specialized in order for you to go on and configure for hospitals, because hospitals really are a specialized area. And so how you will be building and designing a hospital certainly isn't how you'll just do a skyscraper or high-rise building or something. So that was fascinating to me. And, again, I once saw a program and someone is saying, can't remember the term, but she specializes in rocks, analyzing rocks and so forth. And I'm like, these are fascinating things. And I'm hoping that one day we can, in St. Lucia, we can not just have the expectation of parents and students of the run-of-the-mill doctor, lawyer, policeman, fireman sort of thing, and that we are beginning to look outside the box.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we have some highly specialized young people at the forensic lab, and that's fascinating to me as well, and mainly women. So not to go on that train, but I'm just saying. And so that for me is very, very pleasing. Again, forensic science is not just about the whole crime factor thing. And there's again, that vast dichotomy of what the possibilities are. So it's wonderful that we've made some strides there. We need to make some more in the science aspect. We need to do more to push our children towards that innovation.
Yeah.
That's important.
I mean, going back to research and innovation, it being the decade for us here in St. Lucia of focusing on that, it simply won't be okay. We won't cut it doing the run-of-the-mill stuff anymore. We need to think out of the box. We are being confronted, like you said, climate change, COVID-19. What ideas are we coming up with to be able to stem this tide? And it will definitely require specialized expertise to be able to come up with new ways of living.
Encourage our youngsters. It has always fascinated me as well, going to the National Science Fair.
Yes.
And seeing the creativity, the innovation of our youngsters. It's just unfortunate that there isn't too much of that national glitz descending upon these youngsters, because they are ready, they're thirsty, they're hungry for them to do more. But somehow, you know, for many of them, their dream will die. And that's because there isn't that national interest and drive towards supporting these youngsters. And when I say the national support, I'm not just talking about coming from government. I'm not just talking about private sector. But we need the parents, we need the friends of parents, we need communities, we need just you. It doesn't matter if you do not know who is exhibiting in that fair, but just go in and be mesmerized, just be engaged with the youngsters. Ask them questions about what they're doing. So when you have that science fair, we should be seeing thousands of people.
And listen, another thing too, I talking about the science fair, I think we need to begin to normalize patenting. I think we need to begin to normalize these ideas, because in greater countries, we've so far seen every time a young person comes up with an idea, it's quickly patented, and we see the advertisements on television, on network television, about buying this and buying that, and all these little ideas that can generate revenue for us, instead of having, you know, we rely on the tourism industry, but there's a great resource in our human, you know, our intellect, you know, where we don't have to continuously perhaps beg persons to come to, you know, to this island, but rather bringing our stuff out, providing our expertise in various ways.
We can take ourselves to the world.
Yeah, and selling our research. What have we researched? You mentioned the study of rocks, geology. What do we know that we can bargain with the world? And I think that's what we need to begin to think. What intellectual material can we begin to bargain with the world? And that's when we'll begin to see a paradigm shift in the way parents begin to, because recently I was just looking at some universities, and you have degrees in climate change. You have degrees in more specialized fields, and it's unusual to see for somebody who studied 40 years ago, but these things are very real in our, you know, our world today, and they're very important from the decision making right down to application, implementation.
And how many of our youngsters who want to study law will think about specializing in environmental law?
Yeah, environmental law, yeah. I just had a friend who finished a degree in environmental law, and, you know, persons are beginning to get wise to, you know, the niches that are emerging. And another thing too is, you know, giving our students, giving our young ones who are coming up a greater understanding of jobs not only here in St. Lucia, but jobs that are available abroad. Globally. The international agencies that are offering positions, you know, that oftentimes remain vacant because you don't have anyone to fill these positions because they don't have the special, you know, expertise.
And we ought not to lock ourselves out of these opportunities. And so when we think about the possibilities that lie ahead for us, it is vast. But we need to prepare ourselves in order for us to be able to take advantage of all of these things. So sometimes the conversation may be uncomfortable in the very, very beginning. Yeah. Because in order for you to have change, you would have to, you know, shift a bit in that chair. So you would have to do some things that would be outside of your own normal in order for you to be able to see change come through. But at the end of the day, it will be worth every bit of discomfort that it would have brought.
Speaking of the discomfort, I think we also, you know, cause our difference in opinion to reduce the level of solidarity we have. We have to also have a unified front.
But different views doesn't mean that I do not support what the bigger picture.
But that's for another program.
That's for a whole other conversation.
We continue with the morning's look back at this past week of events, the development and use of agro-processing techniques in the quest to diversify the island's agriculture sector and add value to locally grown produce has advanced yet again here in St. Lucia with the commissioning of an agro-processing plant in Babonneau. The facilities are under the command of the St. Lucia Network of Rural Women Babonneau Cluster. We have more in this report from the Ministry of Agriculture's Anicia Antoine. Take a look.
The establishment of the Agro-Processing St. Lucia Network of Rural Women Producers Babonneau Cluster Plant will assist with product research and development for the transformation of local produce into value-added agricultural products. The plant will also provide training and technical assistance, as well as support for the transfer of technology for agribusiness development to improve income generation and food security. President of the St. Lucia Network of Rural Women Producers Babonneau Cluster, Louisa Anthony, underscores the benefits of the plant to the residents of Babonneau, the surrounding communities, its environs, as well as the national economy.
Our outlook for the agro-processing facility is that it is an asset to boost and grow business for our members, and also the wider community of agro-processors. To achieve this, we have mapped out in a working business plan a number of areas for generating revenue from the operation of the facility, as well as reach agreement on the importance of actively creating space for all interested persons to work with us here.
Indicating that this new investment signals opportunities, the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Physical Planning, Natural Resources and Cooperatives, Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, challenges the people of Babonneau to utilize the plant efficiently.
I have the fullest confidence that this place is going to be utilized properly. I have the fullest confidence. But of course, you have to take a number of things into consideration. One is how you manage it to bring the benefits that is so much necessary for you all. That's important. The management structure of this facility. To the question of food safety, and I'm happy that the way it was constructed for us to be recognized internationally, because we should not only looking at our local market, we should be looking at the regional market, we should be looking at the international market. Because the products I'm seeing being produced has that potential, Madam President. So I know we had some different problems with the department responsible, but of course, we were able to overcome these challenges to make sure that it got the certification that it deserves to allow us to export. And here I said to allow us to export.
The agro-processing plant was funded by the Banana Industry Trust at an estimated cost of approximately 500,000 EC dollars. From the Information Unit of the Department of Agriculture, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Thank you, Anicia, for that story. And with that, we come to the end of our program for today, taking a look back at the week that was in today's Week in Review. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Before we go, Lisa, final words?
Yes, just for us to continue to observe those protocols. We're getting into a new week, and we're getting closer to the December 14 date where we'll be able to hear again what the data, the research on what it says about the trend with our COVID-19 scenario, and whether we can see a relaxation of those measures as we will be heading into the Christmas season. But remain on guard. Follow those protocols. Please wear the mask, please sanitize, and please social distance.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in a previous broadcast, I mean, you need to be conscious of your surroundings. Going out, we do have, at this time of the year, hustle and bustle. It's the festive season. People are trying to get the best bargains right now. I mean, I'm trying to get a bargain, but I'm not trying to get COVID-19. So ensure that you are doing and capitalizing on all the best deals within the commercial space while adhering to the protocols, because you would get more than you bargain for. Adhere to the protocols. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now on behalf of Lissa, the rest of the team here.
And Tony.
And Tony, he couldn't stay. He passed through to wish Roger a happy birthday. But we do hope you enjoy the rest of it. And on behalf of everyone, we do wish you enjoy the weekend. It's the season's greetings. Liz, are you feeling the holiday spirit?
Every Saturday, every day, I have to deal with this with Jessie. She's this huge butterfly, social butterfly when it comes to Christmas. Okay, Jessie. Yes, Christmas is shaping up.
Christmas. It's a season, 'tis the season.
I will be the day that you will come here and serenade, I will be very happy. How's that? You will be making 2020 a better year for me the day you come here and you sing.
Let's wait for it. Thank you
Yes.
guys so much for watching. Season's greetings. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of it and stay tuned to NTN. Cheers. My God, my God.